My name's Tom Harwood. You're with Emily Carver as well, and we're giving you continued coverage on this tragedy that's unfurling in Ahmedabad on this flight that was due to land in Gatwick Airport in the United Kingdom later this evening.
Yes, it was. And at Gatwick, for us, is our reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, the plane was due to land at 6:25 today. Never made it, of course. What can you tell us?
That's right. Well, Gatwick Airport, of course, continues to be fully operational today, but they have released a statement this afternoon, and they say we can confirm flight AI-171 that was involved in an accident on departure from Ahmedabad Airport today was due to land at London Gatwick at 6:25 this evening. The aircraft had 242 passengers and crew members on board. London Gatwick is liaising closely with Air India, and a reception centre for relatives of those on board is being set up where information and support will be provided. Our thoughts are with family and friends of those on board. They say they will provide further updates and further information in due course, and of course we will provide that to you, our viewers, on GB News when we have it.
Yes, because Adam, of course, there are a huge number of flights coming in and out of London to India, a standard flight, a huge British Indian population in this country who'll be making those flights semi-regularly or indeed regularly. There will be a lot of people who are potentially worried about taking their flight to India, whether it's on Air India, whether it's on a Boeing or the like. I imagine that some of the people there at Gatwick, some of the staff, will be trying to, make sure that their customers, the flyers, feel safe.
That's right, yeah. Speaking to people here today so far, and most passengers seem comfortable with flying nonetheless. But of course, you're right, there will be concerns about this and going forward, particularly as there's so much that we don't know yet. Why did this plane go down, and how can this be avoided in future? Because it is, of course, just so horrifying and so awful for all those involved. We've heard from the King, we've heard a statement from Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well, and Leader of the Opposition Kenny Badenoch, all sharing their thoughts. It is a horrible day, and you can feel it here today at Gatwick Airport.
Whenever a significant tragedy, significant aeroplane crash like this occurs, I mean, of course, people would still go out to fly. I'm due to take a flight on Sunday. I'm not going to change my plans, but it does make you think, sort of in the back of your mind, there must just be a greater sense of nervousness there today, Adam, where you are.
Yes, that's right. But like I said, everyone here is still boarding their flights and continuing business as usual. Like you said, Tom, you're going away this weekend. People aren't going to change their plans, but it's going to be in the back of your mind. And like I said, people are going to want to know why this happened and what can be done to stop it in future, because it's just so awful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Adam Cherry, there at Gatwick, where this plane was due to land at 6:25 this evening, but sadly it was not to be. We've learnt this afternoon that, according to local police, there appear to be no survivors from that horrendous plane crash. But here in the studio, bringing us the very latest, and throughout the morning and throughout this afternoon, is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Yes, that confirmation that no one's managed to survive this horrific incident, and that we may well see further fatalities on the ground too. Is that right, Mark?
Well, without a doubt, the Police Commissioner who brought us that news of no survivors on the airline are also saying that there have been fatalities. So far, 25 injured people who were on the ground have been taken to area hospitals. Now, the aircraft, we're told, crashed into the residential quarters of the BJ Medical College, with doctors from this area living in quarters there. Apparently, there were some 94 flats and about 200 people living in them. And we know from reports that a significant number of doctors were in the canteen having lunch at the time. I think it was about 1:30 in the afternoon local time when this aircraft came down. And from the pictures that we could see, there were some still images earlier that we showed. where you could see the tables in this sort of dining hall, and they appeared mostly to be intact. Some of that aircraft had embedded in the side of the building and caused damage there. But I think for the most part in that area of this residential complex, people may have been a bit luckier. But we know from other images we've been showing you, there is devastating damage to a lot of the apartment blocks. And we're just seeing some of those sort of images now where apartment blocks have effectively been burnt out. Some others demolished, cars on the ground as well that have been badly damaged and burnt out, as we can see on these images there. So right next to the cars, you can see some of the residential blocks that have been really quite badly affected. Now, the hope will be that at this time of the day, that lots of people might have been away at work. But as we know, especially in the medical profession, people work shifts. So there will have been people at home as well, either having lunch or perhaps sleeping because they've done a night shift. So there will be a mix of people.
Yeah, well, Mark White, thanks indeed for bringing us that very latest. But let's speak now to an aviation safety investigator, David Gleave, because I think the question on everyone's minds now will be, well, the investigation surely must start. How long might it take?
Well, I wouldn't expect the official report to be finished for up to 2 years. However, there will be updates to industry well before that, so that any necessary measures that are identified very early are implemented very, very quickly indeed. So I would guess 2 years for the report, but the first stream of information may well start within a week and certainly within a month.
And I suppose one of the things about this investigation is that we've seen the tail of this aeroplane lodged in a building that seems to have been reported to be this hostel of sorts for medical students. But that tail of the aeroplane looks like it is fairly intact. Would that suggest that the black box is readily achievable?
It should be. I haven't seen the front end of the tail. I've only seen the rear end of the tail sticking out, so I can't say whether the part that the black boxes are attached to is with that. However, this is a relatively low-speed accident, so the boxes should be basically undamaged in terms of their physical structure. They will have been subjected quite possibly to a fire, but they're fire resistant for many minutes, so that there should be no problem in terms of once that they have been found, then downloading the data from there. So I'm hopeful that they'll be able to identify them and access them very quickly.
Because this will be, I suppose, what most of the families are thinking about. I mean, how on earth could this have happened? What can we say at this stage? There must be a number of possibilities, of course, but what are the leading theories about how something like this, in what is an aircraft that is reputed to be quite so safe, quite so reliable, how could something like this happen?
There can be all sorts of external things to the flight crew and the maintenance and the design of the aeroplane. You could have had a large bird strike. Indian airports are known to have large birds in the vicinity of the airport. So much like you saw Captain Sully sort of splash down in the River Hudson after a multiple bird strike, it could be related to that. The weather seems to be fairly reasonable, so I don't think it's related to monsoon winds, rains, or sort of wind shifts and thunderstorms. After that, it's then a question of where on the runway did the aeroplane start its takeoff roll, and did it have enough power? Was the weight distribution okay within the aeroplane, and the takeoff weight absolutely fine? And then after that, were there any onboard failures? So there's a whole host of options available at the moment, and these will all be opened up in parallel by the investigators, and then they will start to close them down as they see sort of that it's not particularly relevant. They'll just document that for the final report and then start their focus on the things that they believe are related to the causes.
that people have commented a lot online. What sort of former pilots that we've spoken to on this programme have looked at the remarkable footage of this aeroplane as it was coming into land, saying that the landing gear, as it was taking off, that the landing gear was down when it ordinarily wouldn't have been, and that the flaps were in a very unusual position for this point in the takeoff. Have you seen those reports? Have you seen that footage? And what does that suggest to you?
Well, I've seen the video footage, and I've seen enough video footage to know that actually it's quite difficult, I mean, certainly the low resolutions I've seen it, to actually establish whether the very low flap settings that you can use on takeoff were actually deployed or not. So I'm a little hesitant. It's a bit more obvious when the landing flap is deployed because the landing flap is pointing much more downwards. For takeoff flap, it tends to move backwards before it curls round and moves down. So I'm not going by anything like that. In the event that you believe, and there was a Mayday call, or at least reported in the media there's been a Mayday call. After a Mayday call, if you believe the aeroplane is going to go down and impact the ground somewhere, it's quite reasonable to deploy the undercarriage at that point. If the undercarriage hasn't been retracted, the 787, some takeoffs, the 787, they do leave the undercarriage down for a reasonable period of time. So it's not that unusual for a 787 to have its undercarriage down at that point. Certainly, one in every few hundred, maybe 1,000 flights or so, has the undercarriage left down for the first couple of minutes. So I'm not reading anything into that. It could be a crew action where they've deliberately decided to keep the gear down, or alternatively, they've lowered the gear again in anticipation of impact.
OK, and David, there haven't been any issues with this model, have there? This Boeing 787. There have been with the 737. What is the difference between these types of models and the issues that potentially there could be?
Well, the 737 is a modification of a design that was made back in the 1960s. The 787 is a brand new 20th century design aeroplane using modern materials. It's lots of computers on board to help you and lots of safety systems built into it. I can't find any correlation here between the 737 recent MAX accidents and this. I think that any correlation there would be spurious. So I think that the 787 is a fantastic aeroplane. It did have some problems at the start with the design and batteries and various other things, but nevertheless, there's a great number of safety systems to warn you if you don't have the flaps in the right setting, and all sorts of things like that. So it's a very safe aeroplane.